Hello watch lovers around the world. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another episode on hand-wound horology. Today will be a little bit different. I will be discussing, in my humble opinion, what I believe are overrated features on watches. What some people put a heavy emphasis on when making their watch purchasing decisions, but in reality they don't really matter, or they are not the most important things. Before we get into it, I just want to reiterate, these points are my personal opinion and may not apply to everyone. First up is water resistance. I have lost count of the number of times I have overheard conversations of people dismissing watches because it doesn't have a minimum of 100 meters of water resistance. It is even more baffling when I hear these conversations take place in the offices of my workplace. We work in a corporate industry, and 100 meters of water resistance should be more than enough for our field of work. Some people are insistent that a watch should have no less than 100 meters of water resistance, and anything else is a deal breaker. But that same person wouldn't wear the watch in a shower or a bathtub. That makes a lot of sense, right? I guess there's the risk of being pushed into a swimming pool at any given time. But for something like that to happen, you do need a swimming pool and friends, neither which I have. But I guess it's better to be safe than sorry. If you have a watch with 300 meters of water resistance, if you ever go that deep, you would have perished 200 meters ago. But I guess you will look good when they pull your body out of the ocean. But in all seriousness, most commercial divers are not even going over 100 meters of depth. Most people will never need a watch with more than 100 meters of water resistance, just like most people will never need a car with 300 horsepower. In conclusion, I think it's a nice to have feature, but it shouldn't be a necessity. Next up is power reserve. This is another nice to have feature, but not a necessity. Excluding exceptional circumstances, what type of person requires 80 hours power reserve or a Panerai with an 8-day power reserve? I can't think of anyone. It's more for just bragging rights with big numbers on a spec sheet. Sometimes extending a power reserve can be to the detriment of the watch. Longer power reserves can affect the timekeeping, servicing costs, and increase the thickness of the watch. Maybe it's just me, but I feel 42 hours of power reserve is more than enough. I'm happy as long as my watch is still ticking when I pick it up the next morning. However, I can emphasize with those watches that have high complications. A higher power reserve can add value. But you do have the option of using a watch winder for these type of watches. If you don't have enough time in the morning to set the time on your watch, I think it might be a good idea to re-evaluate your life. Perhaps set your alarm 2 minutes earlier, cut down the doom scrolling on social media, or buy a pair of laceless shoes. Watches winding down is an unavoidable part of owning mechanical watches. I personally get enjoyment out of winding them before I wear them. It gives me the chance to admire it before I put it on the wrist. However, for those who can't cope, there is always the option of a quartz watch. Next up is accuracy. If you want a mechanical watch, you should manage your expectations in terms of accuracy. Mechanical watches will never be 100% accurate. It is pretty much impossible. But I think as long as the watch is running as per the manufacturer's specifications, I am happy with that. I would rarely check the time on my watch against my phone to see how accurate it is running. If you are spending thousands of dollars on a luxury watch and one of your main criteria is timekeeping, I think you are buying the watch for the wrong reason, and luxury watches may not be for you. Buying a luxury watch is a very niche market. It is a way to appreciate relics of the past and enjoy watchmaking and craftsmanship. It's a time machine back in time when you can own something that is not battery powered, but is powered by your own kinetic movement. If accuracy is a deal breaker for you, there are much more accurate options available, such as smartwatches or quartz watches. And lastly, resale value. Value retention can be considered a reliable indicator regarding quality. Watches that are better constructed tend to have greater residual value, but this is not always the case. I understand people who spend large amounts of money on a watch, they want to have some type of money retention. But the reality is the majority of watches depreciate. There are only maybe 3 or 4 watch brands that appreciate in value. I would like to pose a question. Does a watch have to retain value in order to be considered worthy of purchase? Most definitely not. But at the same time, acting like value retention is somehow a bad thing when others consider this a factor is silly. Also, reselling watches can land you in hot water with your authorized dealer. You shouldn't have resale value as one of the top criteria when making your watch purchasing decision. If the value of a watch will make or break your bank, it may be better to put your funds elsewhere, something that is much more stable, such as shares or property. Thanks for watching until the end. I just want to summarize the features discussed. They are nice to have, but they're definitely not a necessity. For example, I would not sacrifice the wearing experience to bump up the power reserve or accuracy, as this normally results in a thicker watch. Watches with 100 meters of water resistance or 40 hours of power reserve will likely be more than enough for the majority of the population. Anything higher is more than likely a marketing gimmick, as people like to see big numbers on the spec sheet. So what are your thoughts? Do you agree with me, or do you think I've lost my mind and I'm completely out of touch? Would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe. Until next time, happy watch collecting.